Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Speak Better English Podcast.
You know that feeling, right? You're sitting in a waiting room, the air conditioning is humming a little too loudly, your palms are sweating, you're wiping them on your pants hoping nobody notices, you're running through a mental script of everything you've achieved in the last 5 years, trying to memorize distinct dates and, fancy adjectives, and then the door opens, someone calls your name, and your brain just... it goes blank.
It's the universal nightmare, the interview freeze.
Exactly. It is the absolute worst. Today, we are tackling that exact nightmare. But we aren't doing it by, giving you a list of 500 power words to memorize or telling you how to negotiate a six-figure salary. We are doing something completely different. We are looking at a resource that, on the surface, looks incredibly modest. It's a guide titled Mastering the Basics of Job Interview Responses.
And I have to say, when you first sent this over, I looked at the title and thought, basics, really? Are we going back to kindergarten here? But then I actually dug into the methodology, into the why behind it, and I realized this isn't about being basic. It's about being foundational, and there is a massive, massive difference.
That's exactly what I want to unpack today, because the promise in this title, it's actually huge. It says, answer common interview questions, simple, strong responses for beginners. And it's specifically framed as a podcast resource. We're going to dismantle this piece by piece. But before we dive in, I have to play the skeptic for a second.
Choose do. It's important.
Basics, beginners. Simple. If I'm a professional, or even if I'm a student trying to break into a really competitive field, aren't those, dirty words? If I walk into an interview and I'm basic, don't I just blend into the wallpaper? I feel like all the advice you ever hear is stand out, be complex, be impressive.
That is the trap. That is the absolute number one trap, especially for the audience the source is targeting. We're talking about non-native English speakers or, just people who are new to the whole corporate world. There's this massive misconception that complexity equals intelligence. We think if we use big words, convoluted sentence structures, and these 5-minute anecdotes, that we sound smart.
Right. I leverage my synergistic capacities to optimize the prevailing paradigm.
Exactly. And you know what the interviewer hears when you say that?
I'm also afraid to ask. What?
Noise. They just hear static. They don't hear smart.
Yeah.
They hear someone who is hiding behind jargon. And this source, Mastering the Basics, it's arguing for the complete opposite. It's arguing for high signal, low noise.
High signal, low noise. I like that. That's a great frame for this. So the mission for this deep dive then is to figure out how to strip away that noise. We're going to look at why simple is actually the ultimate power move and how strong comes from clarity, not from volume.
And we absolutely need to talk about the podcast element too. That's not just a tag. Learning this through audio is a fundamentally different experience from reading a textbook.
Oh, for sure. We'll get to the neuroscience of that later. But let's start with the philosophy here. The very first phrase, mastering the basics. The source makes a really specific choice to use the word mastering. It doesn't say learning the basics. It says mastering. What's the distinction there for you?
I think it's everything. Think about a professional basketball player. Someone like Steph Curry. When he practices, he isn't spending 3 hours a day practicing a behind-the-back half-court buzzer beater while blindfolded.
He might do that for a TikTok video, but that's not the real practice.
Right. What is he actually doing? He's standing at the free throw line.
Right.
He is shooting the same basic shot with the same fundamental form thousands and thousands of times. That is mastering the basics.
Okay.
In the context of this source, basics doesn't mean easy or for dummies. It means fundamental. Because if your foundation is cracked, you cannot build a skyscraper on it. It will collapse.
So for our listener who might be prepping for an interview right now and they're thinking, okay, I need to learn all this advanced business English vocabulary, this source is basically saying stop.
It's saying pause.
Yeah.
Just for a second. If you are a non-native speaker and you try to use really advanced sentence structures, clauses inside of clauses, the passive voice, the subjunctive mood, and you mess it up, even a little bit, you lose credibility instantly. It shatters the illusion. But if you use a basic structure, subject, verb, object, and you deliver it perfectly with good eye contact and a confident tone, you win every single time.
It's like the difference between a gymnast who tries a triple backflip and lands on their face versus someone who does a perfect, simple dismount and just sticks the landing.
Precisely. Sticking the landing is what gets you hired. Employers hire clarity. They hire reliability. They very rarely hire the person who swallowed a thesaurus but, can't actually answer a direct question.
Okay, so basics is our foundation. That makes total sense. Now let's look at the terrain we're operating on. The source title specifies Answer common interview questions. Again, I'm going to push back a little. Common feels a bit lazy, doesn't it? Shouldn't I be preparing for the hard stuff, the real trick questions? How many tennis balls can you fit in a Boeing 747?
Ugh, I hate those questions. And here's a little secret of the trade. Most hiring managers hate them too.
Wait, really? I always assumed they loved asking them.
No, not at all. Unless you are interviewing at like Google in 2005, those are mostly a relic.
Yeah.
Most interviews today, they revolve around the same 6 or 7 core questions. Tell me about yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Why do you want this job? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
The greatest hits, the classics.
The greatest hits. Now, here is where the beginner aspect that the source mentions is so crucial. If you are learning English, or if you're just naturally a nervous person, you have a very limited amount of mental bandwidth. In psychology, we call this cognitive load. You only have so much working memory available at any given moment.
Like RAM in a computer. If you have too many programs open, everything slows down.
Exactly like RAM. It's a perfect analogy. If you are burning 90% of your RAM just trying to understand some weird niche trick question about tennis balls, you have maybe 10% left to formulate an answer and like 0% left to check your grammar or your tone, you're going to crash. The system will overload.
And that's where the ums and uhs come from, right? That's the buffering wheel of death spinning in your brain.
That's it. That is exactly what an is. It is your brain buffering because the cognitive load is too high. By focusing on common questions, this source is telling you to preload the data. If you have a great answer to tell me about yourself, cached in your memory, not memorized, but cached, you don't have to generate it from scratch. You free up all that RAM to focus on your delivery, your smile, your tone, your connection with the interviewer.
That makes so much sense. So focusing on the common isn't about being lazy at all. It's about being incredibly strategic. It's the Pareto principle, right? The 80-20 rule. These common questions are maybe 20% of all the possible questions, but they show up in 80 or 90% of the interviews.
And if you nail them, you build momentum. Think about it. Imagine the very first question is, so tell me about yourself. If you stumble right there, if you stutter, if you get lost in some long, complex backstory about your childhood, your confidence just plummets. It creates a downward spiral for the rest of the interview. But if you have a simple, strong answer ready to go, boom, you start the interview feeling like a boss.
Like a boss. I like that. Okay, so we are prepping for the common stuff. That's step 2. Now let's talk about the medium. The source explicitly tags this as podcast.
Well,
Why does that matter so much? Why couldn't I just read a transcript of these answers in a book?
this is huge, especially for the learner audience we're talking about.
Yeah.
We have these things in our brains called mirror neurons. It's fascinating stuff when we watch someone do something or when we hear someone say something, our brain fires in a way that's very similar to how it would if we were doing it ourselves.
So you're saying listening is actually a form of practice.
Active listening absolutely is. An interview is not a written test. It's an auditory event. It is spoken word. You cannot learn timing, intonation, or where to put stress on words from a PDF. You can read the sentence, I am a hard worker. But on the page, it's completely flat.
Right. It could be, I am a hard worker with that upward inflection that makes it sound like a question. Or it could be, I am a hard worker, which might sound aggressive.
Exactly. The source being a podcast implies that the listener is hearing the cadence of confidence. They are hearing how a confident person's voice goes down at the end of a sentence to show certainty. For a non-native speaker, mimicking that song of the language, the prosody, is just as important as the vocabulary itself.
It's just like learning a song, isn't it? You don't learn a song by just reading the lyric sheet. You have to hear the melody, the rhythm.
And English has a melody. A confident, professional English melody is very distinct. It's steady, it's rhythmic, it has pauses, and crucially, it doesn't have a lot of those filler words we talked about.
Okay, you've mentioned filler words a couple of times now, and I know this is a massive pain point for our audience. The source promises simple responses. So let's get into the meat of this. This brings us to section 2, the core strategy. Simple.
Simple.
I'm going to be the devil's advocate again. I'm a guy who likes to talk. I like to tell stories. I feel like if I give a simple answer, I'm shortchanging myself. I'm not showing my full personality. I want to give context. I want to explain the nuance. Why is simple better?
Okay, let's do a little workshop. I want to role play this for a second.
Oh boy. Okay, let's do it.
I'm the interviewer, you're the candidate. I want you to answer the question, what is your greatest strength? But I want you to answer it the way most anxious beginners answer it. Try to sound smart. Try to give me all the context. Use big words. Go.
Okay. Let me get into character. Clear throat. Well, that's a very interesting inquiry. I would have to say that in as much as my previous employment, specifically regarding the data analysis sector, where I was tasked with many distinct responsibilities, I think that my capability to synergize with the team structures was, largely speaking, very, very good.
Stop.
Summer things.
That was physically painful to do.
It was painful to listen to. And I'm going to be honest, I zoned out. I literally stopped listening after in as much.
Yeah.
My brain just checked out.
But I used in as much. That's a fancy smart person word. It is a fancy word. But you bury the lead. You bury the actual answer. You forced my brain to do so much work to find the signal in all that noise that I gave up. That is the definition of high noise, low signal. Yeah. Plus, did you notice all the filler words? Like sit. Why were those there?
Because I had no idea where the sentence was going. I was building the bridge while I was walking on it. It was terrifying.
Exactly. You were buffering. Your brain was trying to do too many things at once.
Yeah.
Now let's flip it. Let's apply the strategy from the source. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Think subject, verb, object. Cut all the fluff. Answer the same exact question. What is your greatest strength?
Okay. Resetting. Takes a breath. My greatest strength is data analysis. In my last job, I created a new reporting system that saved the team 10 hours a week. I love finding patterns in numbers.
Boom. Mic drop.
Whoa, that felt completely different.
How did it feel to see it?
It felt easy. It felt lighter. Like I didn't have to struggle to find the next word. The words were just there.
And how did it sound to your ear?
It sounded strong.
There it is. That is the magic connection. Simple leads directly to strong. When you strip away the complex grammar, the in as much as, and the regarding the aforementioned, you remove the stumbling blocks. You remove the need for your brain to buffer. And so the ums and the ums disappear naturally. They don't have a reason to exist anymore.
That's fascinating because in the first version, I was actively trying to impress you with my big vocabulary, but I just ended up sounding completely unsure of myself. In the second version, I used really basic words, job, system, saved, but I sounded like an expert.
Because experts are clear. That is the great paradox of communication. Beginners complicate, experts simplify. If you can explain your value to me in one or two clear sentences, I believe that you truly understand your own value. If you need a 5-minute wandering paragraph of text, I think you're probably just as confused as I am.
And for our non-native listeners, this is the golden ticket, isn't it? This changes everything.
It is the ultimate hack. I cannot stress this enough. You do not need a C2 level near native vocabulary to get a great job. You need a solid B1 or B2 level and the discipline to keep it simple. If you stick to grammar that you know is correct, you will speak with fluency and confidence. If you reach for grammar that you hope is correct, you will stumble and hesitate.
I love that distinction. Know versus hope. It's about staying in your lane so you can drive fast and safely rather than swerving all over the road trying to show off.
And you have to remember, the goal of an interview is communication, not exhibition. You aren't on a stage to show off how many words you know. You are there to transfer information and confidence from your brain to the interviewer's brain. And the most efficient way to do that is a straight line.
Let's pivot to that other word then, strong. The source pairs them very intentionally. Simple, strong responses. We've touched on it, but I want to go deeper into the psychology of what makes speech sound strong. The source material mentions a visual overlay, job interview. So that's our frame. In a casual conversation, say at a bar with friends, strong might mean being the loudest or telling the funniest, longest story. But inside the job interview frame, what is strength? What does it sound like?
In that frame, strength is conviction. It is certainty. And physiologically, from a listener's perspective, strength is heard in the silence.
In the silence. What do you mean by that?
Yes. Let's go back to your simple answer just now. I love finding patterns in numbers. What did you do right after you said that?
I stopped talking.
You stopped. You put a period at the end of the sentence.
Yeah.
Full stop. That is strength. Weakness is the trail off. Weakness sounds like. So, yeah. That's kind of what I do, I guess.
Oh, I do that all the time. I finish my main point, but then I feel awkward because the other person isn't talking yet, so I just keep making noise to fill the space.
That is what I call a confidence leak. You made the point, you had the sale, you were done. But then you kept talking, and you unsold it. You undid your own good work. The source's emphasis on strong responses for beginners is, I think, about teaching them to be comfortable with the Sarbrin. Period. To stick the landing, and then just wait.
That is so hard to do, though. Silence in a conversation can feel like judgment. It feels awkward.
It feels like judgment to you because you're in the hot seat. To the interviewer, it just feels like you are finished and you're waiting for the next directive. It shows that you are in control of your own speech. If you ramble on and on, you seem out of control. If you make your point and then stop, you are the driver. You're in command.
So for a beginner who feels weak because maybe their English isn't perfect or they don't have 10 years of experience, the advice is actually say less and then with a hard stop.
Yes. It projects executive presence, even if your vocabulary is limited. Listen to the difference. I am organized. I am reliable. I am ready to learn. That sounds like a soldier. It sounds like a leader. It's definitive. But, well, I think I might be kind of organized usually. Sounds like a question. It invites doubt.
I want to connect this directly to the specific beginner anxiety, that feeling of imposter syndrome, the voice in your head that says, I don't belong here. They're going to find out I'm a fraud. How does this simple, strong framework help with that internal mental game?
It dramatically lowers the barrier to entry. If you think you need to perform Shakespeare to get a job, you will be terrified. You will feel like a fraud because you know you can't do that. But if the goal is just answer the question clearly, well, that's achievable. It shifts the goalpost from perfection to connection.
And connection is what gets you hired. People hire people they like, people they understand, people they feel they can work with.
Exactly. A clear, simple answer builds a bridge of understanding. A complex, rambling one builds a wall of confusion.
Okay, let's try to synthesize all of this. We've torn apart the entire title. Mastering, basics, common questions, simple, strong, and beginners. It's a lot of great theory. But let's turn this into a practical step-by-step roadmap. If I am listening to this deep dive right now, and I have an interview on Tuesday, what do I do? What is the actual formula?
Okay, let's build the protocol. It's a 5-step process. Step 1, acceptance. You have to accept that you are a beginner or a learner and stop trying to hide it. Embrace the basics. Your goal is not to trick them into thinking you're a native speaker. So stop trying. Aim for clarity, not complexity.
I love that. Drop the mask. It's exhausting to wear it anyway. Okay, what's step 2?
Step 2, the Pareto prep. You identify the common questions. Don't waste your precious time on the weird stuff. Just Google top 10 interview questions. Write them down. Tell me about yourself, strengths, weaknesses, why this company, describe a difficult situation.
Got it. So you have your list of 10 questions. Step 3.
Step 3, the rewrite. This is crucial. Write out your honest answers to those questions. Then you take a metaphorical red pen and you cut every single sentence in half.
Cut them in half. Literally.
Literally. If you have a sentence with 2 commas in it, break it into 2 or even 3 shorter sentences. If you have fancy transition words like however or furthermore or subsequently, cross them out. Get rid of them. Force every sentence to be subject, verb, object. You're aggressively removing the fluff.
So we're actively engineering the simple part. We're building the foundation.
Yes, you are scripting for low cognitive load. It's an engineering problem. Then, step 4, the audio rehearsal. This is where the podcast element from the source comes in. You record yourself on your phone reading your new simple answers out loud.
Oh, that's painful. Nobody likes hearing the sound of their own voice.
You have to get over it. It's the most important step. Listen to the recording. Do you hear yourself hesitating? If you do, your sentence is still too complex. Go back to step 3. Simplify it again until you can say it in one single smooth breath without buffering.
That's a fantastic test, the one breath test. If you can't say it smoothly in one breath, it's too long or too complicated.
It's a foolproof test. And that brings us to the final step. Step 5. Practice the period. After you say your simple one-breath answer, practice stopping completely and then count to 3 in your head. 1, 2, 3. Get comfortable with that silence. That is where the strength lives.
That is a solid, actionable plan of attack. I love it. It really takes the mystery and the magic out of it. It's not about having some innate talent or charisma. It's about engineering your responses for clarity and impact.
It is a mechanical process. And because it's mechanical, anyone can do it. You don't need to be an extrovert. You don't need to be a smooth talker. You just need to follow the formula.
I want to circle back to one thing you said earlier about how native English speakers often struggle with this too. Do you really think this simple, strong method is actually better than how most native speakers interview?
100%. Without a doubt. I have interviewed hundreds, maybe thousands of people in my career. Native speakers are often the worst offenders for rambling. They are too comfortable with the language. They think they can just wing it. They don't prepare. So they come in and they talk for 10 minutes straight and say absolutely nothing of substance.
The classic, well, to answer your question, let me tell you a long story about my childhood dog.
Exactly. It's a nightmare for an interviewer who has 6 more candidates to see that day. A non-native speaker who uses this method, who is concise, direct, prepared, and punchy, often comes across as more professional, more prepared, and frankly, more respectful of my time than the native speaker who just loves the sound of their own voice.
That is such a powerful reframe. It's a huge confidence booster. So your limitation, the fact that you might not know enough English to ramble for 10 minutes, actually becomes your superpower, forces you to be concise.
You are flipping the script. You are turning what you perceive as a bug into a feature. Clarity is your competitive advantage.
We are coming to the end of our deep dive here, and I feel like we have squeezed every single ounce of wisdom out of this one title. Let's read it one more time. Mastering the Basics of Job Interview Responses. Answer common interview questions. Simple, strong responses for beginners. Podcasts.
It's a mouthful of a title, isn't it? But every single word in it earns its keep.
It really does. It's a complete manifesto for clarity. And remember that overlay we talked about, job interview. You are stepping into a specific arena where efficiency and clarity are the rules of the game.
Don't bring a poem to a business meeting. Bring a bullet point.
I love that. Don't bring a poem to a business meeting. We should put that on a t-shirt.
Maybe I will. It's good advice for life.
Well, before we sign off, I want to leave everyone with a final provocative thought. We've been talking about job interviews this whole time, but isn't this strategy bigger than that?
Oh, it's so much bigger. It's about all communication.
I was thinking about this during our role play exercise. The visual overlay of our life is usually just conversation. But how often do we complicate our scripts in daily life? How often do we say, and like, because we are just afraid to say what we mean directly?
All the time. We use filler words to soften our message, to be polite, to avoid taking up too much space, especially in professional settings.
Exactly. So here is the challenge for you, the listener. The next time someone asks you a simple question, it could be your boss, your partner, or friend, what do you want for dinner? Or how was your weekend? Or what do you think of this report? Try the simple, strong method. Don't ramble, don't buffer, just say the truth, put a period at the end of it, and then be comfortable in the silence that follows.
I want pizza. Period.
It was relaxing, period.
I think the report needs a stronger conclusion. Period.
See how strong that feels? Even just saying it, there's no apology in it.
Feels powerful.
Yeah.
And it saves everyone a lot of time and mental energy.
It really does. This has been fantastic. A deep dive into a simple title that turned out to be profound.
Always a pleasure. Keep it simple, everyone.
And strong. We'll see you next time.